Hey everybody, it's Coach Jessica again this morning, and when I was thinking about all the things we want to cover this week, one of the things I thought would be good to go ahead and talk about is what or who is Ed. You will hear me reference him, you will hear others reference him, but Ed is the name that I call the eating disorder. And it's really important for me to discuss with you guys who Ed is, because part of getting free from the disease of compulsive overeating and bulimia is identifying Ed and understanding his nature, because in order to fight the disease, in order to overcome it, we have to understand what Ed is like and how he affects us. Yes, he's not really a person, an entity, but it helps a lot to identify him separate from you, because as I've discussed in previous videos, he is something that we are afflicted with. It isn't something we choose. We're not fighting ourself. It's not so much self-sabotage as Ed sabotage, and we'll talk more about that at a later time. But I want to talk about who Ed is. I picture it like this, because I'm very, when I talk, I see everything in pictures. So I picture my brain. I've got this whole big healthy brain. It's smart. It has willpower. It is doing so many other things in life, but for some reason I cannot stop overeating, right? So I don't get that. But my brain, the largest part of it, is healthy. It wants health. It wants to overcome. It wants to succeed. It wants me to succeed in my purpose. It wants me to move forward. So why is it that all of a sudden I change my mind and I do the things I don't want to do? Well, I picture it like this. There's the big healthy brain, and right in the little corner is Ed. He's this tiny little black dot. And what I picture happens in those trigger situations that we talked about, being too hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or specific triggers to you, that little dot, Ed, grows tentacles, and it takes over that big healthy part of your brain, the part that has committed to being well, the part that has the willpower, the part that that wants to succeed. Ed takes over that in certain circumstances for those of us who have disordered eating patterns. So the reason that's important is because you don't have to be mad at you. You don't have to fight you. You have to realize you're fighting against Ed. Ed plants a thought. The thought, it thrives in dark, meaning we don't talk about it. It's a secret thought. For example, he'll plant a thought like, just have it tonight. You'll start over tomorrow. And in the midst of a stressful situation, being too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired, that thought grows. The tentacles spread, and it's all that we can think about. And really, I always say that Ed holds he holds up an ideal of something that you will get from eating. You're going to get great comfort. It's going to taste so good. It's going to make you feel better. And honestly, while some of those things are probably true, it's so temporary. He blinds you to what happens afterwards. The fact that it isn't just one night. It turns into a whole day binge, or it turns into a weekend binge, or a whole week binge. I've had whole years turn into a binge because I believed this lie from Ed that I was just going to do it tonight and start over tomorrow. And then tomorrow didn't come. I was sucked in then because of the sugar addiction. So understanding Ed's nature, that he operates in the dark, meaning if your eating is shameful, if it's secret, if you don't share it, he thrives. Understanding his nature is that he looks for situations where you're vulnerable. And again, you have your specific ones, but there's the universal hungry, angry, lonely, tired. By the way, that spells HALT, meaning stop and think before you eat. HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That's when you need to be on alert for that thought that's being planted, that promise, that false promise of what food's going to do for you. So just wanted to kind of introduce you to Ed, the thought of Ed, and what he does to us as disordered eaters. And people have it at different levels. And also, he's really sneaky. He speaks to us in our own voice. You'll say, well, I gave myself permission to have it. Or you'll say, well, I thought it through and I decided. At that point, you have given Ed the wheel. He has decided and he's driving you. And that's where that autopilot, that crazed eating comes in. Without really putting much thought to it, the tentacles have spread and he's taken over your thoughts and he is just driving you to the refrigerator or to the restaurant or in your car to fast food. At that point, he has taken over. And that's why when afterwards you feel a daze, because you really weren't in control at that point. So again, there'll be much, much more on this, but I wanted to introduce you to the basics. This is who Ed is. When we talk about Ed, we're talking about the disordered part of your brain, and it just helps to give him a name so we know who our enemy is. All right. Hope y'all have a great day. Talk to you soon.